Good evening, YouTube, or good morning, depending on when I get around to putting this together and posting it. But it is time for the comic book roundup of the month. This was a really light month. I went to Heroes, my local shop where I always go, and I didn't have a lot of stuff in my bag, maybe 4 issues, 3 issues. So I looked for some back issues on old series. I only found 1 issue that I didn't have, and then I had 1 other dollar store purchase the last time I was there. So it's really light month, but that's the way it goes. Next month we might have a whole shit ton of stuff to go through. So, but for now it's going to be pretty light. And the first thing up is Supergirl, Friends, and Fugitives. To be honest, I'm not a big Superman, Supergirl guy. When it comes to DC and superheroes in general, like Batman's my favorite. I've always liked Batman the best. And I like some other characters from the DC, but I like pretty much everybody before I like Superman. I don't know, there's just something about his do-gooderness, you know? Like, I like Batman's more darker edge and his willingness to walk that fine line between hero and vigilante, right? Like, whereas Superman's squeaky clean image and good looks and all that shit, that's not really my bag, right? So, but Supergirl's hot, so I thought, why not? And it's Supergirl, not Superman, so maybe I'll like her better. So this is a thick one. It includes maybe 4 or 5 issues, consecutive issues, and it starts with her and her childhood friend Thara, as they are arguing over the fact that Thara is responsible for Kara, who is Supergirl, for letting her father die, get murdered. So she's kind of responsible for his death. So they kind of have a falling out, and while this is all going on, there's these flashbacks to when they were kids and how their friendship formed and yada yada. As the issues go onwards, Kara is has doubts about, she knows her mother is grieving for her father's now that her father's dead, but her mom won't really talk to her and tell her what's going on, so she's having these weird feelings of what the hell's going on, why is she treating me like this, and then so some revelations from her mom kind of come on everything, and then after that it's basically the hunt for her dad's killer, who is Reactron. And so it wasn't Thara that killed him. She was just involved in the whole sequence of how he died. So basically the last few issues are kind of Supergirl, Thara, and Nightwing, I think his name is, as they get caught up in this hunt for Reactron and end up being hunted themselves as they're kind of set up by somebody. So pretty entertaining bunch of issues. I did like it more than I thought I would. Like I said, I just bought it because it's got a couple of hot chicks smacking the shit out of each other on the front, and I was like, I'll take that for $4, right? Of course I will. Next up, we have issue 2 of TMNT, The Last Ronin. Was super excited for this one to finally come out. As it starts out, April O'Neil, and I guess what would be current times, so she's a bit older, she's weathered, she's missing an arm and a leg in some telltale explosion that happened in their past, where everybody thought she was dead. So she's having these nightmares, and then when she wakes up, she kind of she goes back on the nightmare and what it is, and it's the night. It looks like, I don't know for sure, but it's the night when the Turtles showed up at Casey and April's house, with a very badly injured Master Splinter, which I believe is when he died. I'm assuming. So she's kind of flashing back on a nightmare to that whole sequence, and what it did to the Turtles and their little group, sort of thing. How it set everything in a bad kind of direction. So, and then. But in current times, with current April, the Turtles are actually with her. Michelangelo was with her, and after, of course, she took him in and healed him after his siege on the tower in the first issue, right? So she's taken him in, she's nursed him back to health, and he's actually up during the middle of the night, and April comes out and talks to him, and they start talking about, everything that happened and stuff, and then suddenly April's like, "Whoa, you haven't met my daughter," and she's like, "Casey!" And Mike's like, what? Casey's still alive? And she's like, no, my daughter's name is Casey. So this maybe a teenage girl, maybe young 20s, I can't tell, comes in and it's totally like, oh, you're Michelangelo, you're the funny one. And she knows all about the turtles, right? And so then the two of them kind of go off into Casey's little martial arts studio. She's really taken an interest in martial arts and all the different forms and philosophies and stuff like that. So her and Mikey start developing this kind of little bond as they talk about stuff. And she asks him, what happened? Like, what was everything like after everything, Splinter died and everything? And so he, at the end of the issue, he kind of flashes back to after Splinter died and everything happened and he was the last Ronin. Oh, excuse me. How he just kind of started walking into the winter tundra, ready to die. And as events had it, even not caring and going out and freezing in the cold tundra couldn't even kill him. So he came out of it with a purpose and stronger than ever, and that's how he became kind of the warrior that we saw lay siege to the tower in the first issue. And the cool thing is when he flashes back on, sorry, I'm spitting all over myself. When he flashes back on, what happened to him after Splinter's death and everything, they kind of alter the comic style from, like a normal current kind of comic to like the old school Turtles comics, just for a few panels in there, right? So I thought that was kind of cool to throw that in. So, but yeah, the Last Ronin, I don't know, there's something just about this series that grabbed my attention when I saw the first issue, and I don't know if they're coming out every few months or every other month, but I had to wait a while for that one after the first one was released. So I'm assuming I'm gonna have to wait for number 3 too, but I'm really good at waiting. Next up, we got a couple of Transformers issues. First up is number 2 of the new Transformers Escape. Kind of sub-series, I guess, that's all linked into the other ones that's going on. In this one, at the outset, we see the Insecticons, led by Bombshell, or no, is it led by Scrapnel or by Bombshell? Either way, it doesn't matter. They kind of approach Shockwave as he's doing some work in his lab, and they're kind of arguing over some sort of agreement they had, and Shockwave's kind of putting them in their place, but doing it in a way to keep them kind of under his control and kind of appeased for now. And when they're out of earshot, he's talking to the new guy that looks like Soundwave, but he's not Soundwave, Sound Blaster or something like that. He starts talking to Sound Blaster about oh yeah, they don't know how suited they are to this cloning process, and if only they knew the truth and all this stuff, right? So there's something going on with the Shockwave experimenting on the Insecticons, and he doesn't want them to know the results for some reason. So in the original Transformers cartoon, like the Insecticons got cloned, and there was hordes and scores of them, just like there would be bugs, right, in real life. So it's kind of following, I think, that whole cloning kind of storyline. In the meantime, the Autobots' Hound is leading this kind of pilgrimage to get the beings off Cybertron that don't want to be there anymore. And they get attacked during this pilgrimage by a group of Decepticons, and they have to fight back. The Insecticons show up and join the fray as well. But in the end, right at the end of the issue, a Transformer named Die Atlas, who I've heard of him before, but I don't remember where. I don't remember if it's one of the cartoons I watched after the original Transformers series, or if it's other comics or different series of comics. Like, I don't remember, but I know his name. And so he shows up and helps settle the score for the Autobots, even though he's not about the violence anymore. Just his presence is enough to settle things down and stuff like that. But and that's kind of how the issue ends. So we don't really know what's going to happen there, but something is going to happen. So next up, issue 2 of the new Beast Wars series. So in this one, in the original Beast Wars cartoon and stuff, of course, the Maximals and the Predacons landed on Earth, and that was their new playground. This doesn't look like Earth, though, because basically this is just each of the teams, the Maximals and the Predacons, settling into their new routine after crash landing and getting things back up and running, and figuring out their environment and just getting settled into this new place. And but in the meantime, some weird stuff's going on. It's like, did you see that? What the hell was that noise? So and we see it. It's this weird race of, like, they almost look like electricity beings that kind of can zip in and out of places and disappear and reappear. And so this is some sort of alien planet with obviously a sentient race that belongs to it, and they're kind of curious to see who these new arrivals are and how they can probably, I'm assuming, use them to their advantage, right? So we've got these critters kind of looking on the Maximals and the Predacons. And at the end of the issue, the small Autobot named Nyx, who transforms into a bat, Optimus Prime gives her permission to spread her wings and fly and go do some reconnaissance in the area. And right at the end of the issue, the Predacon named Terrorsaur locates her and tracks her down and blasts her and takes her captive, and he delivers her to Megatron right at the end of the issue. So she's not in good shape as things kind of close out there. So last up, we have 2 issues of G.I. Joe. One new, one old. Both exciting and awesome. Extraordinary exciting, as Arnie would say back on WWE back in the day. First up, the current one is the G.I. Joe Yearbook, which I didn't realize they still did yearbooks. Back when I was a kid, they always did yearbooks, and I was always a fan. And so it was cool to see a new one come out, and it's really, really thick. It's nothing much of what I haven't seen before, though. As you can see, it's got an old kind of sequence of issues in here, and it's one of the original storylines when the Joes are trying to protect this scientist named Dr. Adele Burkhart, who has developed this weapon or something like that. So her work is volatile, and people want to kill her or for it and stuff like that, or Cobra wants to capture her and use her. There's lots of people that hate her and want to sentence her to whatever, but the Joes are tasked with protecting her and taking her in and not judging her, right? So it's just a process of trying to protect Burkhart and get her back from Cobra when they kidnap her and that sort of thing. So I've read that one before, so that was nothing new to me. And then afterwards it goes through just a bunch of adventures after that, one of which is actually in the next one. And it goes over some profiles on some of the characters, all these character profiles. I don't know if that's even in the camera right now. And then at the end, which was cool, is G.I. Joe on television, which kind of tells the history of how G.I. Joe at first struggled to get on the air, and they did, but they did some... did they do a mini-series first? I can't remember. I just read it the other night. And it didn't take very well or something, but then they started doing these 30-second or 1 minute or 3 minute commercials or something like that during some sort of program, and making these really cool commercials to promote it. And all of a sudden G.I. Joe blew up. Like, the kids kept watching these commercials and like all the characters and stuff, so they wanted all the toys and stuff. And after a bit of a slow start, G.I. Joe became just this rolling juggernaut back in the 80s. And it's not something I have to conjecture on, because I was fully a part of it. I still have a pile of Joes tucked away in a suitcase here. And I mean, they're not in great shape. When I was a kid, I did play with them pretty hard. And they're held together with that elastic in the middle that joined their crotch to their torso, right? And those just wear out over time, right? So mine I have some that are in okay shape, but I also have a lot that are, thumbs break off and all the other stuff that happens. But yeah, they were such a cool toy. So character driven, so many characters, so many vehicles and play sets. It's probably my favorite toy line. As much as I love my Transformers toys and stuff, I think G.I. Joe was probably the most versatile and diverse, and just and you could really play with it too. Transformers, you really only had the characters, whereas G.I. Joe, you had the base, you had the ships, you had the planes and the trucks and the tanks and the cars, all the characters, all their weapons. Like, it was just such a really fleshed out toy line, and based on a cartoon that was, well, actually I think the cartoon was based on the toys, but whatever. And the cartoon was as just as good. Like the whole franchise was just fantastic, and it really disappoints me how they didn't keep it going over the years, I mean, they resurrected it with the live action movies, but nobody really liked them. I liked them, but they could have been better, but they also could have been a lot worse. Like, I liked them for what they were. Um, but it's just like Transformers has so many series over the years. After the original G1 ended, there was like Armada, Energon, Cybertron, Animated, Beast Wars, Beast Machines. Now there's Cyberverse, Robots in Disguise. Like I'm still missing a bunch too. They just kept it going and kept it going. But G.I. Joe, they had a couple of small little series or little animated movies, and really chose to do nothing much with it. So I think there was a real missed opportunity there, because I think they could have really run with it and kept it going. So, but that just means it would have been more DVDs and more toys for me to buy. So maybe it's a good thing. Last up, Tales of G.I. Joe number 15 from back in the day. I have most... This is actually the last issue in this series, I think. And I have all but... I'm just missing 10 through 14. So I have most of them, and so I didn't have the issues that led up to this one. But it follows the adventures of Snake Eyes and I guess they call him... I'm sure there's a more PC term to call him now, but an Eskimo named Quinn, and as they escape with an evil scientist named Dr. Venom from a Cobra bunker on the island of Sierra Gordo, only to be recaptured kind of by a Cobra hit squad, but they escape capture there, and then they have to get off this island, so they do this raid on an airfield and hijack a Lancaster bomber and just barely managed an escape there. But then as they get into the air, Dr. Venom tries to find all these different ways to double cross Quinn and Snake Eyes and kill them and get away scot-free, but they keep foiling his attempts, and in the end they land in Miami. But Dr. Venom thinks ahead and calls somebody at Cobra or whatever, and they have a lawyer show up, and they whisk him away as soon as they land, and whereas Snake Eyes and Quinn are sent to jail. So they got away, but then they went to jail, and the prick goes free. So, hey, it's just like real life, right? So that's it. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 issues this time, and I had to go with one back issue and a Dollarama purchase. So really only the 4 new ones that I got this month at Heroes. But I'm expecting, since it was a small March, hopefully April will be a little more fleshy. So we'll see what happens. In another month I will have more for you, and until then, enjoy what was the good weather. We'll just pretend that snow last night didn't happen. That's what I say to the snow. Take care.